Welcome back to Bonanza Disc Golf. I recently played a tournament, crapped the bed in the second round, but got a decent amount of winnings, and from them, we're gonna be taking a look at the new Discmania Razor Claw 3 and comparing it to a couple discs that I have bagged before. The Z-Zone was a staple in my bag for a while, took it out for my last two tournaments, and was really happy with that until I did not trust the Toro during my last tournament. I've heard that this maybe fits a middle slot. It honestly feels a little bit deeper than both of these discs, just right off the bat. It is a little bit deeper. It kind of feels, I haven't thrown harps before, but it kind of feels more like that. But we're gonna see how this flies against these two on a 6-hole loop. That's the easiest way to actually compare them, is to take them out into the real world and play around. I actually replaced the zones in my bag with the Toro because of how much more I liked how it came out of my hand. But then as I played with it more in competition, especially trying to drive off the tee and have more touchy up shots where there wasn't so much fade at the end, I ended up not liking it as much. So I'm hoping that the Razor Claw fits an interesting spot there where I like more how it feels in my hands, but it isn't as crazy overstable. Don't think that's something that has Eagle McMahon's name on it though. Is not gonna be super overstable, similar to how everything with Calvin Heimberg's name is super overstable. I made a Ricky versus Stock Vader review, and the Ricky ones are always more overstable. So the faster the arm speed of the player whose name is on the disc, I'm guessing, the less I'm going to be able to throw it like them until I get that arm speed. All right, so I think maybe right off the bat, we're going to be able to see why I am not the biggest fan of this Toro. These are all in the premium plastic. This is Color Glow Champion. I think this is the only plastic that the Razor Claw comes in, and then just the Z-Line Zone. Honestly, this is a little more beat in, but it feels a lot slicker than both of these. This one has really feels like you can get a good grip. This one feels like you can get a good grip as well, but it's kind of an in-between between the Color Glow Champion and the Z. I would say in order of slickness, this one is the most tacky, this one is middle, and then this one is the slickest, which might be one of the reasons why I don't like it. Maybe I should get like a Crystal Flex or something. I don't know. First hole is 225 feet right up there. Got a headwind coming in. We're gonna need to throw a flexing forehand and just basically throw a straight shot with discs that are not meant for straight shots. Get over it at least. hit the house. That's better. I just don't know how stable this is gonna be. We'll see. I'm guessing less stable than the Toro, but we'll find out. What a good showing. What a really solid showing. Those will be my warm-ups. I'm gonna keep those in the video, but we're gonna go grab those and play from this spot again. Okay, bye. For the record, they're all bad. Razor Claw is more stable than I thought. I think too, after looking at this hole, let's try a big backhand line over everything, which is much more what these discs are meant for anyways. Get there. Oh my gosh, that almost was in the basket. All right, Toro, gonna have to leave this even wider because this is more stable. That's parked with the Razor Claw 3. Wow, that thing is beef as well. Good shots. That thing might be as beefy, if not beefier than the Toro. What I'm realizing is the zones I seem to treat more like putters because they'll go much further distances. The Razor Claw and the Toro are more true mid-ranges. I need to figure out what those numbers are. I'll tell you on the tee of 2 after we putt out. All right. If we don't cut the beginning, solid birdie, birdie, birdie start. The Razor Claw 3 is 4204, which is exactly the numbers of the Toro, whereas the Zone is 4303. So I would say that these so far are accurate to their flight numbers. Let's get on to hole 2 real fast. And I think this is where we'll really see the Zone shine against these two as to why I like throwing it in my putter pocket. This basket, oh, it says 201, but on here it says 270. Perfect shot for all these discs. Honestly, on the backhand, we're gonna go Zone first again. I will say, the one thing that I don't like about the Zone is it's the one that I'm least comfortable throwing. So I prefer to throw the other two, honestly. Even already just once with that Razor Claw 3, just the tackiness is much better. Get down. Uh-oh, that's OB. All right, need to leave it wider. We do have a right to left wind big time. Much better. Even a little too wide, and that's the problem. That disc is same power, way shorter, just because it's much more of that true glide, 4 fade instead of 3 glide, 3 fade. Best throw of the bunch. Stit. Yeah, that one's good. That comes out of the hand well. I'll have to try other tactics too, because I kind of like that a little more. I think that's a tactic clone-ish. I don't know. I might like that more than the Toro. I like that it's flatter. It's not puddle top like the Toro is. Toro inside the circle. These baskets are super weird. 2-0. These things have no glide. I also short-armed it, but we'll blame it on the glide of the disc. All right, way better throw with these two. Zone, I threw a little bit less hard, but it's still almost the same distance as that. Headwind, nice. Good par save. Birdie. Oh, Razor Claw's ahead. All right, the basket that we're headed for is just straight through here to the left of that last tree on the road. Not the road, the row. It's gonna be a pretty simple flex forehand line. Can't really take a big hyzer because you have to contend with all these first trees here. Razor Claw is gonna be up first because it won the box. And this is what I mean by it being just flatter. If you look at the tops here, this one's puddle top and this one's flat. I love a flat disc, like these zones, but this feels a little bit beefier in my hand than the zones do, which makes it a little bit easier to control. I am gonna try to put a decent amount of anhyzer on this, so it'll have to fight out of it. And it does it great, and I hit a tree branch. I hit like the smallest tree branch in the world. Toro again, gonna try to keep it a little lower. I can't because the headwind will lift it. And I still threw nose up. And now for the zone. This one should be a little less stable. Oh yeah. See, I don't even think I could have really rolled my wrist over on those other ones. That's interesting. Those are definitely different. So thanks for everyone who told me that. Sorry that I didn't listen. All right, Zony boy, right over here. So I pitch it up under the basket there. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, not having those in my bag for a while. I've been throwing that disc these first couple holes like my Toro. I gotta learn stuff. That's really interesting because I want to throw that like my Toro, but it just doesn't have the same torque resistance and it glides way more, which is exactly what I want on some tee shots, but especially for up shots. I wanna have to keep a couple different discs in the bag. I like mold minimalization. You know what I'm trying to say. But honestly, I would rather just have the shot in my bag, even with having more molds, because I'll get confident with each of the molds. Stay up. Nah, that's all right. Toro. Oh, way too high. I will definitely have to do more testing with it against my Toro to see which one I want to keep in the bag. I don't think there are zones that are stable enough to be in this category. I also don't know if I should start comparing these with my Justice, which I have in the bag but don't necessarily like too much. I just don't throw it a lot. Why can't there just be one disc that does everything that I need it to always do? I don't gotta choose between so many discs. At least it gives me a job, if I'm being honest with you guys. The basket is straight ahead there, just to the right of that tree. 245 feet, these are the perfect holes to be testing these discs out on, especially because now we're gonna have to flex a backhand and watch it fight out of it, because you can't, I mean, you could just go big hyzer, but I need a probably fairway driver to be comfortable with that. I think this is exactly where these discs would shine, because I don't trust myself not ripping over on the zone too much, but these ones I don't think I could rip over on them enough to have them not flex. So that's kind of perfect. Interesting. Even with the tailwind, I thought it'd stable it more. That's not, I mean, that's a perfect shot, never mind. But that might be less stable than the Toro. Let's try. Nope, they're both pretty similar. Wow, that Razor Claw 3 is under the basket. Let's try the zone. Gonna definitely have to put a little less anhyzer on it, more straight shot. Yeah, that just glides way too much. That's all right. I also threw that one way less hard than the other two, and it landed pretty much where the Toro is. They're definitely different slots, and I'm learning that. So I think the zone, out of contention, different disc, not what you're gonna be replacing with the Razor Claw 3. It should be a more stable mid-range, or if you want a more stable version of a zone harp-like disc. So we're just gonna go Toro versus Razor Claw 3 for the last 2 holes. Oh, it just drops. It's not a putter. Zone. Razor Claw 3 right here, which is parked. I think the thing that intrigues me the most about this is that if you picked up a zone and you picked up a Toro, you'd be like, they're copying each other. Apparently this has what's called a plus rim, where the rim kind of goes in on itself, which I really like in my hand, makes me feel a little bit better. But then if you were to pick up the Razor Claw 3, you wouldn't think it's based off the same mold. Like, yeah, there are similarities. Like any disc in this category, they're all gonna be flat or puddle topped. It's going to have something that curves down on this edge, but this is a little deeper, and it's a little bit more like, has a more blunt round to flat than these ones do. This is more round. I mean, these are essentially the same mold, but this one has a plus rim and a puddle top. And this one is different, which is very interesting because it flies very similarly to the Toro, but might actually fly a little farther or fade a little more for me. I'm gonna have to figure that out over these next 2 holes, but zone, she gone. I'll pick it up, I promise. I'm not littering, Jesse, I'm not littering. All right, here's hole 5. It's 200, did I turn that off? No, good. All right, here's hole 5. It's 248 feet. Around, you can kind of see the basket underneath that tree there. So another into a headwind, just hyzer. I've noticed this with Discmania discs. The Sky God 4 is similar, but this is a little bit deep. It's not as deep as the Sky God 4. It's way deeper than the Zone and the Toro, but this is kind of a comfortable deep even for my hands, where I feel like I'm getting a good snap, instead of this one where I feel like I have a more comfortable grip like this, but then it might stay in my hands a little bit more. Whereas this one, I can get a grip on, unlike the Sky God 4. My index finger does get all the way around there. Yeah, it's interesting, very interesting. Wow, that never even thinks about turning up there. think I parked like 4 of these with that disc. Try the same thing here with the Toro, same exact shot ideally. Very similar, came out maybe a little lower. That might be parked too. Yeah, those are both pretty parked. The Razor Claw 3 did go a little further. Again, the flights seem very similar. I will say, I think the Toro gets to the ground a little more because when you have a puddle top, that's just what happens. Instead of a flat disc, the puddle top makes it want to get to the ground, makes it a little more overstable. But I don't think that the Razor Claw 3 is not overstable. It just might be a little more workable. It might be what I wanted my Toro to be. And it still has some glide, but not enough that it scares me. And it has a lot of finish too. I mean, practically there's no difference here, but if I'm going for a CTP, I think I know which disc I'm picking up at this point. All right, last hole, hole 6, all the way down there in those shadows of those trees down there. So it's gonna be a flex backhand, which is gonna be hard because this tree's right here. So you're gonna have to kind of throw it maybe a little hyzer towards that last light pole and see how much it'll finish. It'll be a good barometer of how these two fly. And I'm actually gonna throw the zone in here just to see if it's any different. All right, interesting. We are going into headwind, but that just kind of held straight.
And what's interesting is this isn't even the wind on me. Like, it's been my first throw, and it's still been better than the other one.
Also missed my line by about 20 feet inside. That's better. Yeah, I think it's just on the finish. That this doesn't have a penetrating finish, whereas the Razor Claw 3 does. And for reference, that's even on hyzer, and that's gonna be way farther than both of them. I mean, not a good shot, but not a bad shot. I'm gonna go mark the Razor Claw and rethrow it just to get a good idea of what an actual throw would look like. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I threw that a little harder than the zone. I don't think it'll be as far as the zone, but that flight is really nice. All right, so this is what's super interesting. Here is where my first shot landed with the Razor Claw 3. And here's the Toro, right here. And then my Razor Claw 3 went a little farther, not a lot farther, landed here, and my zone on hyzer is down here. Let's finish out Razor Claw versus Toro. If Toro makes a big putt and I 3-putt with this guy, then I guess they're tied. Let's see if we can throw it in on a forehand. Oh, man! Come on, dude! Oh! Look, just in case you guys are wondering, I promise, every single time I do one of these videos, I'm like 100% legit, especially my rounds. Like, I'm playing a full 18 holes back to back to back. Maybe some practice shots in there, but I'm always taking the first disc, always trying to be truthful because I want it to be realistic and legitimate and a show of my progress. So I didn't like sit there 10 times and try to do that. That was my first try. That was wild. That was a little more stable. Wow, way more stable. I do think even from just feeling it, I would have said that the Toro is more stable, especially after learning about the puddle topness and stuff, but it's just sticking the chains, man. So my conclusion about the Razor Claw 3 is that it's a really solid disc if you want something more stable than a zone, but I never wanted to get over. Even when I got over on it, it always got to flat. It did seem to stay flat for a while, which I think really makes it workable on low lines. So the Toro I didn't like a lot because I always felt like I had to flex it because it just seems to want to get to the ground, which is really good in some situations. But this has some of those tendencies, especially if you don't throw it quite as hard as you might need to. And if I did want to really power up on it, I feel like it could like do one of those more hover shots, which is kind of ironic because that's like what Calvin is known for. I guess not with these discs, but I really like this. This might actually go in my bag. The zones are definitely going back in. I'm gonna keep all 3 of these discs in for a bit. Hope this helps you. Pick one of these up if you want to, down. I don't even think I have an affiliate link for it, honestly, but if you want to support me, there's links down in the description to do that. Otherwise, subscribe, like. I love you. See you in the next one.